Hello and welcome to the presentation of Hayava's Soccer Stats version 2.1 app. I'm going to go ahead and click on the icon here and start up the application. The initial screen is the team setup page where you can manage your lineup, manage the other team's lineup, actually turn on and off the Twitter posting ability, and where you actually see the team statistics. We're going to go ahead and manage our lineup. The initial screen that displays is NP for no player and a spot on the right hand side to enter the player's name, and the in checkbox is to indicate that the player is in or out of the game. So I'm going to add a couple of players. Player number 1, and we'll name that player Bob. We'll put in player 13, name him Alan, and player number 2, and name him Jack. Now I purposely put the players out of order. I'm going to go ahead and save this team as Team 1 and click the OK button. Now I'm going to go ahead and clear the roster, and I'll reload that team. I'm going to click on the load. I'm going to pick the Team 1, and it reloads the team file that we had stored. Now I'm going to go ahead and sort the players into order. So we have players 1, 2, and 13. We're going to go ahead and check on Jack to add him to the game, and then we'll click the return button to return to our stats entry screen. What we notice here is number 2, Jack, is placed at the beginning of the lineup. The players on the bench, which are gray, are at the end of the lineup. The selected player is highlighted in red, and we'll notice that I'm going to click on 13, that players in the game are highlighted in purple. To add player 13 to the game, we'll long click on him, and we'll see that number 13 has been added to the game, and he is now in purple. So we have player number 1 on the bench. We can select that player, and we see players 2 and 13 are in the game. To award a stat, just select the player that needs the statistic, click on the stat button. In this case, number 13 got awarded an assist or corner kick. Number 2 received a foul. Number 1 was not in the game, but was in the game previously, and you still have the ability to award a stat. So let's say number 1 was previously the goalie and had a save, and we forgot to award that. We can go ahead and award it now. The plus minus button here is to undo a statistic that was done in error. Let's say that, oh, we didn't mean to give number 1 the goalie save, so we can click on that button to remove it. Change this back to the plus sign to go forward in incrementing. The start timer will actually start the game clock. So as soon as we start the game clock, players that are highlighted in purple will start receiving time. So at any point in time, if a player is subbed in and out, that their time will get adjusted. So player 1 has no time at the moment, and 2 and 13 will also show no time. But we'll go ahead and sub player 2 out of the game. He's been removed from the game, and what we'll see now that is that player 2 was actually in for 19 seconds. Player 13 still shows 0 because it's still accumulating time, and player 1 has 0 time. We'll go ahead and add player 1 into the game, and his time starts from that point on. We'll add player 2 into the game, and he starts accumulating time once again. So once we stop the timer, we'll stop it here shortly, we should see that player 1 has 16 seconds, player 2 has been in for 28 seconds, and player 13 has been in the entire game. A new feature we have just added is the ability to go ahead and post game events to Twitter. First thing you need to do is authenticate the application to allow access to Twitter. So we'll click on the authenticate button, and what that will do is actually start up the web page for authentication at Twitter. You should see a screen that says Soccer Stats by Hayava Inc. and an Authorize button. If you are currently not logged into Twitter, you will have your user ID and password box here to log into it. And once you do log in, you click in the Authorize app. After it does authorize the application, it will be redirected back to the stats page, as we'll see in a second. At this point, we're redirecting back to the application. And now what we notice is that the authentication button has been removed automatically. What we can do, we still have not turned on Twitter, but we can click on Menu, click on Twitter Settings, the Twitter options that we have is to post goals, post any cards, yellow, red, post substitutions, and post game notes. And by default, we post all goal tweets and game note tweets. To return out of the settings, just click your return arrow, and you should be back on the team setup page or the whatever previous page that you were on. Now we can go ahead and turn on the Twitter setting to go ahead and tweet. And we're going to go back to the statistics page, select number 1, and award that player a goal. What we see there is a successful post in 1 minute by Bob. Let's go ahead and start the timer. Get into the second minute. So now we're at the start of the second minute. We're going to go ahead and select player 2, award that player a goal, and we see there's been a successful post of Jack's goal. I'm going to go ahead and stop the timer again. What we can do here on the other team is actually award fouls, cards, whatever, and it does not stop at 1 yellow card here because we're keeping track of all statistics for the entire team using the NP player. Now you can go ahead and create the entire lineup and individually keep stats for each player, or do it as a team. Now one thing is that we have not set up a name for that person, so those events there are going to show up as no name. So one thing that I would suggest doing is going to the Manage Other Team lineup and entering other team, so that statistics will show up on the events game notes as other team. And I'll go ahead and display that now. I'm going to go ahead and click on Menu, View Statistics. And now what we see here is all the statistics. And here at the bottom we can see that a red card was awarded to the other team, other team, other team. these without names were the original other team without the name, or before we added the other team name to that player. Scrolling down, we'll see also the amount of time played is displayed on the statistics page, as well as all the other stats for the individual players. At the very bottom, this red highlighted section is where the start of the visitor team player stats begins. Now, if all the players are listed as NP, we do not display any of the other team's statistics as an individual. So that's the end of the page there. On the team setup page, what we see is our statistics on the left-hand side and their statistics on the right-hand side. Clicking on the menu button, the different options that we also have are ability to reset the game. We'll go ahead and click on that. It'll reset all the values, clear the entire thing. The ability to add game notes, and those game notes are added to the game log event. And we could do something after a person scores a goal. Awesome goal by player 1. And that gets, like I said, added to the game event log. And it also, since we have that Twitter set on, it sets it or posts it out to, or tweets it out to Twitter. The email short will take any of the stats that are listed as a team and display that in an email. The email with HTML will actually send the short version of the team stats in the body of the text, but will also append an HTML document, which is the one that we view when we view stats. There's a different option to email as a CSV versus an HTML page. We have the option to save the current game, to load a previous game, and to delete any games that we previously saved. And again, to save a game, it will ask you for the file name, no extensions needed. So game 1, and notice that I'm using underscores, slashes, and pound signs are not allowed. Versus the Tigers. Game has been saved. To reload a game, I'm just going to go back here, click on load game, and the game 1 versus Tigers game, and now it's been reloaded after we select it. And that pretty much concludes the demonstration of this of our app. Just scrolling down a little bit and you see all the different stats. If you have any questions, send them to info@hayava.com. Thank you for watching.